den for such a long time. The last time I found one was in the Eastern Cape with black-backed jackal. Oh, they're so cute. But I'm going to position myself nicely so you can see them. Hello, little ones. It's okay. Don't be afraid of us. Now, I'm going to try and talk as soft as I can, which is not very soft, because they are little. Hello. Look how small they are. Now, the other night we saw, I think it was 3 or 4 little ones bounding around. They were very active. Yeah, they do look like side-striped jackal. Just a little bit more mottled in colour as well, quite grey. But I could... Oh, big yawn from you. Now, they're quite young. Now I'm not so sure. Okay, we'll just keep them as jackal. No, it's a black-backed jackal. There's an adult. Sorry, Darby, that's just caught my attention. There's a pole. Okay, so they're not side-striped. They're very mottled in colour. It must be, of course, the black-backed jackal. And you can see there's a little entrance to their den, and that's where they live inside. Now, I don't think that they're very old. I think that they're about 3 weeks old. About 9, not 3 weeks, 3 months, about 9 weeks old or so. This is so precious. Look at it. It hasn't even grown into its ears just yet. Now, I don't know how much research they have done on jackals and their dens. I definitely haven't heard of any jackals being collared, seeing as though we've been chatting about collaring animals. But it would be quite interesting. I'd be quite interested to know how big their territories are, because they move around quite a bit, these animals. Now, I'm just checking to see. I don't want to make mom or dad too worried about us. Hello. Let me reposition quickly, because I think there's some more actually on the other side. Let's have a little look. These animals will get you quite used to the vehicles fairly quickly. It's very much open out here, so they don't have to worry about anything sneaking up on them. The grass is a little bit long, so I'm just going to go around because I want to see how many there are. Now, Stephen, you've said that these jackals look like your coyotes that you have in America. I suppose they're quite similar. They remind me more of foxes, though, a combination between a fox and a coyote. I thought I'd seen another one run in here, but actually this is quite a nice area, because I'm just looking at the tunnels. Let me go back a little bit. There's actually lots and lots of little entrances here. I wonder where the others are. They must be a little bit on the chilly side and still inside the den. But they've got very powerful claws, so they can dig really, really well. And this little one looks quite tired and a little bit damp. It's been sort of raining on and off right through the night. Where is your siblings? Isn't that absolutely precious? Oh, a little stretch and a little ear shake. Now, hopefully we'll be able to spend a bit more time with these jackals as we sort of go about in the Mara. Maybe we can even watch them grow. So when I know when I'm in the area, and I'm sure the James and Scott and Brent and Jamie, when they get back, would love to come and see them. So hopefully over the next few months we'll be able to watch these young pups grow. But I think it's time for you to go back to bed. You look exhausted. You don't look like you should be out here at the moment. Now, I actually wanted to just quickly see how old they are when they get weaned. So I might have a little look in my book to see that. But we're going to stick here for a little bit longer and see what they get up to. We're going to go across to James now. Apparently, he's got a very important and a well-known character of the Mara Triangle.
Well, the Mara Triangle and the Mara, and we were talking about him earlier. There he is, the infamous, famous, marvellous, and now rather getting on a bit, Don Scarface of the coalition of musketeers here. And although this is definitely not his best angle, on account of the fact that he's flat and not looking regal at all, he's a magnificent lion. So that is Scarface the lion. I know that, of course, not because of anything other than the fact that he lifted his head very briefly, stared down the barrel of the lens with menacing, sort of menacing intent with his left eye, and not much in his right eye. Then he went back to sleep. So that's where he is. I'm afraid we cannot go closer to him on account of the fact that we are still in the non-off-roading zone. But there he is, looking pretty good. His belly's full. And I suspect that's almost entirely from scavenging, because he does have a gammy back right hip. Why it's gammy, I'm not sure. Could easily have been injured. But a male lion is the best and most effective scavenger out here because he's so big. Michael, you want to know how many coalitions there are in the Mara Reserve? And the Greater Masai Mara, I don't know how many there are. In the Mara Triangle itself, there are the Triangle boys, the Kitwatembo boys, who tend not to be particularly territorial just yet. There are these musketeers. There used to be the Notch boys. They are now pretty much a force that is spent. There's a coalition of 2 that knocks around with the Salt Lake Pride. And what else is there? There are a couple of males that knock around on the escarpment. The escarpment side of things we don't know well because we don't get any signal there, so we don't drive there very much. Those are about the most obvious ones. I suspect the 2 that hang around the Salt Lake Pride also dominate around the Egyptian Goose Pride. And then there are a number of non-territorial coalitions, like the one we saw earlier today. And of course, we saw that coalition from yesterday of a young male and a much older male with that pride that we were with yesterday, and I'm still not sure which pride that is with the kinky tail. All right, we're going to move on from Scarface. You've all seen where he is now. Taylor is with a young canid, who I think, I just think the young jackals are some of the cutest things you can possibly find out here.
They are indeed, James, and I'm also very excited about meeting a Scarface too. Hopefully I'll be able to try and follow him this evening if he gets up to no good, but I'd love to see him. But look at this little one, being very curious with the cars. I don't know how much interaction they've had with the vehicles, so it's going to be quite sweet to sort of see. It was coming up towards the car just like a hyena cub would do, very curious, but it's now sat back down. You've got a bit, maybe some fleas or something that you're nibbling on. Now, Ali, you're wondering if that's a termite mound that it's dug into. It most certainly is. Now, those holes don't look particularly wide, so I don't know if any other animal barring a jackal has utilized this. I don't really think a porcupine would be able to fit in there, and I think even an aardvark, remember aardvark can weigh up to about 60 kilograms. They're not small creatures. I don't think they'd be able to go in there too. So I think that this den is just being used by Jackal, and they will use the same dens over and over again. We actually saw it quite often. There was one particular den site in the Eastern Cape on a reserve I used to work in, and they used it almost every single year. They're very social creatures. I wish we could see the rest of them around here. It would be nice to come here at night, sort of just at sunset, to see how many are actually about. Now, James, you've just asked about their den sites and whether they'll use them yearly. In my experience, yes. Like I said just a moment ago with the blackback jackals that I saw in the Eastern Cape, there was one spot out in the open plains, also in a termite mound, but it wasn't a big raised termite mound like this. It actually dug down into the ground, and they used to use it every single year. So I was just having a little read about, I was trying to find out about their sort of suckling habits and how long they sort of suckle for and when they start eating meat, but I haven't really. I've been so excited just by watching this little fella over here. I'm just in absolute awe. But like I said, it doesn't look particularly big. It also has a nice big stomach, almost a swollen belly, just as, well, what a youngster looks like after it has suckled for quite a bit. But once we start spending more time with these jackals, we'll learn a lot more about them, and again, we'll learn the different personalities that these young pups have. This one, I think, is going to be the more dominant one, or more sort of bold. Does it have any sort of identifying features that we can try and remember it by? Well, other than the fact that it is entertained by bits of grass. Let's see if it's got any things. There we go. No, I can't see anything just yet. No scars. Obviously, it's quite young. Its ears look in lovely, good condition. Although on the right-hand side, the right ear, you can see it's got a little bit of a nick coming in, sort of halfway up. Maybe we can try and use that. It's, of course, very difficult when they're so young. to be able to identify them, but I think once the others come out, we'll just be able to know by the bold personality. There we go, going exploring a big stretch. Oh, and are you going back home now? It's starting to drizzle again, so I don't know if this little one wants to be out in the rain. It does look a little bit damp, like it had been sitting out here before. Oh, I love Jackal. I really enjoy watching him, and I wish we could spend more time with him, especially the adults. It's one of my favorite things, watching them hunt, and that's definitely going to be on my radar, spending time out here, of course, looking for leopards and lions and interesting things, but it's quite nice to watch jackals hunt. This one, of course, is not going to be hunting just yet. It's still very, very young, but the adults are amazing. They don't just scavenge, though I suppose it's easy for them at the moment to find food. I saw one not last night, the night before, was eating on an entire wildebeest carcass all by itself. So there's plenty of food around, but once the herds start to move off, you'll find that they'll go back to hunting things like rodents. Very, very good at chasing after them. And they remind me of how the Arctic fox sort of dive into the snow. They do a similar thing, diving in the long grass though. Isn't this precious? Now, Byron and Tristan would also love to see this. They would be in absolute awe. We're going to go across now to Byron, who's at Chitwa Dam with all the hippos.
Well, we're down at Chitwa Dam. It's always nice coming down here, and it's really starting to warm up quite a bit. And we've got our hippo that you saw earlier, and just through there that Sept showed you. Always nice seeing the hippo. Now I'm trying to do some birding here. I caught a glimpse of a bird that we don't have, but I couldn't identify it, to tell you the truth. I'm trying to see if we can see it again. A quick little view of a little bird. I'm waiting. Also, there are pied wagtails that we see around here from time to time, but they're not here now, unfortunately. Oh, look at that crocodile. All spotted, Seb. I must be honest, I do enjoy seeing these crocodiles moving through the water like that. Some yellow-fronted canaries around here, lots of Egyptian geese, the water thickneys, green-backed heron, the blacksmith lapwings. All these birds are around here, birds that we usually see at the waterhole. I just find it fascinating how crocodiles, when moving through the water, hardly cause a ripple. A little bit there at the tail, but look at from the head, there's absolutely nothing. It's warming up nicely now, I said.
Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently it's about 17 degrees now, 62 degrees Celsius. Well, it's most likely quite accurate. 72 Fahrenheit and... no, 62 Fahrenheit, 17 Celsius. So I suppose that's close. I think because we're sitting in the sun now, it's nice and warm for us. And Heather, you asked if any animals hunt crocodiles. You know what? When they are chicks, when they're chicks, listen to me. I'm sorry, everyone. What am I talking about? When the eggs hatch and the young crocodiles, then they will be vulnerable. Possibly birds of prey, maybe other crocodiles. I know that. So they are vulnerable at that age. Now, for example, this big crocodile, nothing would threaten it. Nothing. I've heard and seen lions try and go for a crocodile when they're out the water. But that's quite unlikely. But a big crocodile, and this one, nothing is a threat to it now. Bar people. Justin, these crocodiles can move incredibly fast through the water. There was actually a clip that we got in the Mara. A crocodile swimming, I think it was to a wildebeest calf that was trying to cross. And this crocodile moved so fast through the water and just grabbed and pulled the wildebeest calf under. I'm not entirely sure of the exact speed. I just know it's fast. I did have a little chuckle to myself earlier. James said this bird challenge has been going on for quite some time, and he referred to it as the Ben-Hur of bird lists. James, he's in a... Mac, my silly comment of the crocodile chicks hatching. You said flying crocodiles would be very scary. They would indeed. I'm not having any luck with birds around here at the moment. I wonder if that crocodile is going to get out the water. That would be nice. And bask on the bank to warm up. Do you know they enjoy that? Well, Seb, you've got a great view of him there. Oh, Lauren, where you wanted to know more about that movement of the crocodile. So what it's doing is it's using its tail to maneuver itself through the water. So they move their tail and backwards and forwards, and that propels them through the water. So the legs often either just dangle or they put them against their bodies. And the legs don't move, but the tail moves, and that's what gets them to maneuver through the water like that. So that movement of the tail from side to side. A lot of red-billed buffalo weavers here. We actually need some of the other weavers. There are village weavers in this area that I have seen, but for some reason can't find any now, obviously. Oh, there we go. We've got a new one. Grey-headed sparrows. It just flew off, but on that bush on the edge of the island. Let's see if we can get them there. There it is. Just have a look. Yeah, it looks like a grey-headed sparrow. There we go. I've been waiting to see them. I saw them the other day. Yeah, just flew down. But that was... Oh, let me show you a picture of it. Hold on a second. But we got it. Oh, I'm assuming it's the southern grey-headed sparrow. Yeah, that was it. I'm almost certain of it. Southern grey-headed sparrow. Can you see that? There we go. Nice, another one. Just want to double check. Where's this northern grey-headed sparrow? Yeah, no, it's just double checking. Yeah, it's the southern grey-headed sparrow. They do occur all over. They do occur in these areas, and that was it. I saw them the other day and just couldn't get them on camera. But that's wonderful. So we're on 93. 7 more to get to our 100. It's becoming harder and harder, but there are still a few that we know are around. We just haven't got them on camera yet. Giant kingfisher.
Where?
In the center of the dam, right at the back there, Seb.
On that branch.
There we go. Giant kingfisher, 94. That's awesome. That is nice. There we go. 94. Sure. That giant kingfisher, that's a pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
Look at us go. This coming to the dam here was a good idea, I think. Just need to find one of these pied wagtails. I'm trying desperately to scan the area and see the hippo backs a little bit further out the water, maybe trying to warm up a little bit.
There she is, your pied wagtail. No?
Oh, there's a pied wagtail.
There we go.
Well done, Seb. Pied wagtail.
Yeah,
95.
Ding, 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 ding.
That's the one we wanted. There we go. That's great. Meg, sorry, can you just give me that question again, please? Snorky Maiden, you asked, where do the hippos give birth, on land or in the water? So they give birth on land. They'll leave the water, give birth on land, but very close to the water, and then return to the water very soon after giving birth. But they give birth on land. Nancy, you said there's always something happening at the dam. This is true. This is very true. Wow, we're on 95. That is amazing. We need to get a black-headed oriole, a green wood hoopoe. What else? It was African hawk eagle. That's at least 3 more that I can think of quickly, just off the top of my head. You never know, we could get some other surprises. Roshni, very soon we are going to start getting some migratory birds heading back, the migratory birds. So probably the Wahlberg's eagle, they're one of the first to arrive back. So those, there's the African hoopoe. It's always nice to see them around. Beautiful birds. Sarah, you were saying it's great teamwork from Sebastian and myself, and it is definitely. And Sebastian's got the hardest job of getting them on camera. I just have to identify them. We've got saw a cutthroat finch. We've got that on the list. It's actually so nice just sitting here. I was hoping something might come down to drink, maybe with it warming up a bit. Those hippo all huddling close to that tree. Now they're there a lot, and I think one of the reasons is because that little area where that tree is, I think there's a bit of an island under the water, and I think it's a bit shallow. So the hippo are able to sit there. They can lie down, keep their heads above the water, and rest. We've got those red-billed oxpeckers. Would be great to see a yellow-billed oxpecker. Keep looking out for them. Very peaceful around the dam too. I mean, just yeah, it's not quiet by any stretch of imagination. It's quite, I wouldn't say noisy, but it's not quiet because there are birds and there's a lot of sounds coming from the dam. A lot of different birds calling. Dusa, you asked why do the crocodiles not go after the hippo in the water? There's kind of an unwritten rule between hippo and crocodiles. They stay out of each other's way. If, in all honesty, the hippo can cause some serious damage to those crocodiles. Those hippo have huge teeth, big mouths, and are very, very powerful. So crocodiles respect the hippo and stay out of their way. Maybe a young hippo could be in potential danger, but there's always an adult close by. So the crocodiles and the hippo, I think also because they live in the same habitat, they've got this mutual respect almost. So they stay out of each other's way. Now, let's go across from our crocodiles all the way to the Mara with Steph on the river cams, and he's got some crocodiles.
Hello everybody, and yes, we've got a crocodile as well. This is Steph from the river cams, and that is the swollen Mara River that we've got there. I think this is the same crocodile that we had yesterday wanting to come out onto this little island, or at least this little saddle between the two islands, to come and rest out of the wind for the day. Crocodiles obviously are cold-blooded, and their metabolism is determined by the environmental temperature around him, and for him to put on a lot of fat during this time of plenty, he needs to keep a suitably high temperature to metabolize all the food that he's got access to. And we'll just keep an eye on him to see what he's going to do. Why don't we go over to Cul-de-sac Crossing, where we've got a buffalo adding to the flow of the Mara River at the moment. That is a bull buffalo, a bull Cape buffalo. And if there wasn't testimony to how Kenya is in the grip of a drought until now, with the overcast weather and the swollen Mara River, the condition of this buffalo would tell you all of that. Now, for those of you who've been watching the show for some time, you would realize that seeing skinny buffalo is nothing new for us in the last couple of years. The reason for that is that we had a massive drought in South Africa that I don't want to say showcasing because that would put a positive spin on it, but that we managed to show everybody. And seeing skinny buffalo was a common sight. This buffalo is far from being so skinny that he's actually, he's got a health problem. These animals are massively robust. But the fact that his pelvic bones are sticking out so much is just testimony to that. He's losing condition. In other words, his body is metabolizing the muscles in his body to supplement the diet of grass that he has. And that is a worrying sign, everybody. Let's just hope these rains continue and that the suns come. He's got something wrong with his ear. Do you see that? Oh, I must be honest with you, buffalo, they are the toughest characters. Them and hyena and honey badgers are the toughest characters out here. They put up with the most abuse I've ever seen animals put up with out here. It's almost like Mother Nature has a bit of a, they've I don't know how to say this. It's almost like nature's against them rather than with them. He seems to have had, sorry, at full zoom my cameras are a little bit over eager. He seems to have had oxpeckers gleaning the flesh from inside of his ear. Now, that's usually apparent when they have some other type of infection. The oxpeckers, well, the ticks firstly would start to congregate in the open ear canals of the buffalo. This would create sores, which flies would then come and further feast on. The oxpeckers would come for the blood and would keep the flesh open and clean of infection, but it leaves that white scarring that you see there. So the white scarring is due to oxpeckers busy keeping the blood flowing on buffalo, or in his ear at least anyway. They feed on blood and ticks. And perhaps it was the injury which was caused by the injury that caused the tear in the ear was potentially created that. Now, let's just see what he looks like. He's going to cross the river. Unlike wildebeest, which weigh in at about half, I'm not expecting crocodiles to take much interest in this buffalo. There's a hippo that just plopped down there in the top left-hand side of the screen. Now, this is a first, everybody. This is the first time I'm showing you, but the second time I'm seeing buffalo swimming across a river. I obviously know buffalo swim. I've seen it in the Delta. I've never seen it in the Kruger National Park. It must happen, but I've never seen it. And here, the buffalo must go from one side of the river to another. And just look at this character. Buffalo, neck deep. Whoopsie, what happened there? Okay, we've just lost cul-de-sac crossing. Alrighty, don't worry about that. That happens from time to time. These cameras definitely have their own brains. Let's go and see. Oh, hang on, wait. I've lost Dusty as well. All right, we've got cul-de-sac crossing back, I think. Everybody. All right, so the rain that we're having down on the Mara is creating creating chaos with the link that we have between the cameras, which are obviously unmanned and remote cameras, and where I'm sitting on top of the hill here. And we have got Jared on top of it. He's busy working furiously, I'm sure, behind the scenes to restore the communications. Jared, you wanted to know what season is it in the Mara right now? Oh, excuse me, Gregory. We don't have any seasons in the Mara. What we do have is, well, we don't have seasons like winter, autumn, summer, and spring. We've got a wet season and a dry season. Because we're right on the equator, what happens is there's a long wet, which starts in November, and then there's a short wet, which starts in about April. The long wet lasts for about 4 months, 3-4 months. The short wet lasts for 2 months, and then in between there's a dry season, which stretches from about July through to November. Temperatures remain almost constant. Trees are in a constant state of growth. Animals are in a constant state of sort of reproduction. They're constantly breeding with one another, and so there's no breeding season as such. There, of course, is in some animals, crocodiles and such, wildebeest. There we go. Well done, Mr. Jared. He has worked furiously behind the scenes there to make sure that we have... I wonder what's happened to our buffalo. In the meantime, he's disappeared. I would like to believe that he's made it to the other side and has climbed up the bank. Let me see if I can search for him. I don't think that he's disappeared in a flurry of crocodile action. Buffalo are tough characters. They won't just take being bitten by a crocodile easily, unless that crocodile had the advantage of being about the same weight as that buffalo. And then, of course, the buffalo is at a disadvantage in that it wouldn't be able to get footing and needs to breathe a lot more frequently than what the crocodile does. Now that is interesting. We couldn't have been gone for what, more than 2 minutes? That is amazing. So in a little under 2 minutes, a buffalo who is half starved crossed over a sort of flooded Mara River with crocodiles around him easily the same weight as what he is. We're looking at about 1,500 to 2,000 pounds. And where he was crossing, that buffalo would absolutely have needed to swim. There are some crocodiles that were in the same vector as that buffalo, and they don't look like they are fighting off a buffalo right now. So I can only imagine that buffalo made it across. Amazing. All right. There we have it. There's a hippo that's standing up in the background over there. And, okay, why don't we go over to Dusty Crossing and see if we've got some connectivity with Dusty again. And there's a yellow-billed stork that is on the other side there. Or why don't we send you to Byron, all the way in South Africa, who's got quite an interesting bird to show you.
Thank you, Steph. Always nice to have you there controlling those river cams with all the wonderful wildlife around those rivers in the Mara. We have a green-backed heron perched out in the open. It's nice to see the green-backed heron. It is on our list, but we're sitting on 95. I'm very excited. I didn't think we'd get this high, to be honest. I didn't think we'd get to 95. I was going to be happy with the mid-80s, to be honest. We'll see. Apparently, it started to rain in the Mara, but that's okay. We'll see what we can find. I think, Sebastian, shall we move and see if we can get a hammerkop? Now, we know where there is a hammerkop nest. The hammerkop is a beautiful big bird. It's got a hammer-shaped head, hence the name hammerkop, which means hammerhead. The feathers and the beak, it looks like the head of a hammer. So we do know where a nest is. It's just on the other side of the dam. But we might spot some other birds from the dam wall, possibly in the drainage line behind the dam. Jenny, you asked what are the chances of seeing trumpeter hornbill. Now, I haven't seen trumpeter hornbill here. You never know. You never know. Having a morning coffee also. Now, I was chatting earlier about the ground hornbills with all the birds that we've been doing, and I think it is important to do birding and chat about birding conservation. We've been touching on about animal conservation and that earlier this morning. But birding conservation is very important too. And the ground hornbills. See, the thing with the ground hornbills, what makes them... Hold on a second. I'm just going through a little dip here. Okay, apparently the signal's still fine. That's good. That's good news. So with the ground hornbills, they're very specific in terms of where they nest, and picky almost. They nest in certain areas, certain trees. So again, just with man basically taking over natural habitat, it can cause a bit of an issue for the ground hornbills finding nesting sites. Now the other thing is when they lay eggs, they usually lay, I think it's 2 or 3 eggs, or 2 eggs, but when they hatch, often one youngster will kill the other one, whichever one is bigger and more dominant, to avoid competition, so that it can get all the food and grow. So the breeding strategy isn't very good, and that chance of one then surviving are also very slim, and that's why the numbers are so low. I'm just going to scan across here quickly, just to see if we can't spot something flying around here. Oh, is that what I think it is? At the top of this tree right here, Seb, there are 2 little birds sitting there. Yeah, this one closest to us. Let's have a look there. No, I think you're going too far. No, that's sorry, not at the back. This little one right here. Yeah, just to the right a bit. Keep going, keep going. Where are they now? Did they fly off? No, they're still there. They're still there. No. Left. There. Is it not one?
Oh, I guess.
Yeah. Now higher up, just a little bit higher up, there was a better one. But there, just to the left, there we go. Lovely. Now, is that not a cinnamon-breasted bunting? Let me just double check. That looks like a cinnamon-breasted bunting. There it goes. Both of them, they just landed down at the bottom. I'll just double check and make sure. Those are cinnamon-breasted buntings that were down there. You can see those grey-headed sparrows again. It is the cinnamon-breasted bunting, so that is another one for us to add to the list. Let me show you it quickly. Look at this, that's a lovely one that to see around here. Oh, sorry. There we go. That little one. Let's just see, that's a male. I think it was the female. There we go. Cinnamon-breasted bunting. But yeah, definitely, that's wonderful. Nice surprise. Haven't seen some cinnamon-breasted buntings, but the white markings around the head and that, and the brownish body, as opposed to the golden-breasted bunting. And there's another bird. Not a great picture, but that is it there. There we go. Cinnamon-breasted bunting. That is great. Another one, 96. Look at that. We're doing very well with our bird list. All right, well, I'm going to see if we can find that hummerkop, which the nest is close by. But let's head across to Steph, who's still on the on the river cam in the Mara.
I must say, Byron's got probably one of the most infectious laughs I've ever heard. And what we've got is also something quite special. It's a baby crocodile, which is unusual to see, to be honest with you, because baby crocodiles will tend to be seen far away, or occur far away from where large adult crocodiles are, because they are cannibals and they will eat young crocodiles. But this youngster obviously... Hang on, wait, he's going to move. So he's about less than a foot. You can see those stones next to him. To give you an example, that stone that's just behind him is probably, the one on the bank is probably about as big as your thumbnail. And it's just a perfect little crocodile, don't you think? I must be honest with you, at this particular age, let me show you, there's some sticks, there's some grass next to him. You can see that he's just less than a foot big. Compare him, and I'm going to show you now, to a proper sized dinosaur. Chitty Chatty, you want to know how long crocodiles live for? That's an interesting question, Chitty Chatty. It's got all to do with the environment. Being cold-blooded has a lot of benefits and a lot of negatives. But one of the big benefits is that you actually can be quite long-lived being a cold-blooded animal, given the fact that your environment is kind to you. It's not too hot or not too cold, and it's just perfect. You're on the equator, I must be honest, it's just perfect. But some crocodiles in captivity are thought to be upwards of 90 to 100 years old, and that's because they're kept in environments where their feeding and the temperature can be monitored. In the wild, I doubt that crocodiles will live longer than about 60 to about 70 years old, to be honest with you. And the reason for that is that it's actually quite a tough life. Crocodiles at this particular age that you're looking at right now are preyed upon by almost anything. This youngster here will be eating other crocodiles, big fish. A Nile perch will gobble this one up, no problem. Not that you get Nile perch in this river, but Nile perch will gobble them up in this area. Almost all the birds of prey that you can think of, barring the smallest kites and hawks, will be able to take this little guy. And so he's taking a big risk being out in the open. The only reason I can think that he's in the open is that with the superabundance of carcasses around at the moment, that he's managed to scavenge himself a big meal. He needs to, on a cold day like this, he needs to spend a lot of time out of the water. But that's also not uncommon for young crocodiles to spend a lot of time out the water hunting for insects. At this particular age, they will be hunting for insects. But can I please ask to go to Dusty? There's something interesting happening with a giant crocodile there. I'll come back to the small one. Quite often we ask the question, do plovers pick the teeth of crocodile? And have a look at that. We've got a three-banded plover making its way to a crocodile who's just opened up his mouth. Now, this is what that youngster is going to turn into in a couple of years' time. This is one of these river giants. Not the biggest crocodile I've ever seen. This one here is probably about 10 feet long, and giving us a beautiful view of how streamlined these animals actually are. You know, when you really look at a shark, when you take away the fear of what the shark instills in you, and you take away the fear of what a crocodile instills in you, and you have a look at them, they are the most beautifully evolved creatures. Obviously, that crocodile thought that bird is not going to clean my teeth today, and so he closed his mouth. The reality is, of course, Chantal, I'll answer your question about teeth now in a second. The reality, of course, is that this crocodile was not waiting for the bird to clean its teeth. The reality is that the crocodile sheds excess heat by opening up its mouth. So this crocodile is bouncing his body temperature, his metabolism off of a maximum threshold. The sun is obviously warm. He's spread himself out nice and flat, and you can see how flattened his limbs are, not only to make him streamlined in the water, but also to create a flat surface perpendicular to the sun, which allows him to absorb as much heat as possible, and not so that the bird could pick its teeth clean. I have heard the same folklore. I cannot disprove it, and I'm point I'll be able to show you a bird picking the teeth clean of the crocodile. Now, to answer Chantal's question about do crocodile replace or regrow teeth, Cantrell, excuse me, not Chantal. Yes, as far as I know, they do replace lost teeth. I don't exactly know how. It's not like maybe now we'll be able to see this bird pick this teeth clean. Come on, do it. You can do it, little bird. That's a three-banded plover, for those of you who don't know what that bird is. And we are hoping, I'm holding my thumbs here, that this little bird decides to come and pick some morsels from between this crocodile's teeth. Come on, you can do it. Crocodile inviting the bird in. I don't quite know if I would be so brave. I don't know how other than perhaps these crocodiles' teeth get replaced very similar to our own, with the exception that while we only have milk teeth and adult teeth, and once they're gone, crocodile maybe regrow teeth out of their top jaws. I'm not too sure. I'm sitting at the moment with as much as much literature as I have available to me on crocodile teeth. I obviously don't have access to the internet where I'm sitting right now. But perhaps one of you could just research if crocodile have a never-ending source of teeth, or whether or not they get their adult teeth at a point and they're just so robust and so magnificent that they never chip, break, or otherwise erode until the crocodile dies of old age. Looks like that bird is not interested in coming through to this particular crocodile. Have a look how that croc has flattened out his belly. Have a look at the tail, which is obviously one of the primary propulsion systems for this crocodile, using those long flattened legs to add maneuverability. Here comes this little bird back again. Oh, the tail is just amazing. Just have a look at this little guy's tail. Highly adapted for swimming. The tail makes up about 40% of the crocodile's total length, can you believe it? And a large portion of its weight as well. Now, Nikki, you wanted to know how long it takes for a crocodile to mature, which is a very good question, and one I'm going to have to revert to my book on. I'm going to read it to you. Young crocodiles dig a burrow, and they live communally, and they'll shelter in this burrow for the first 4 to 5 years. Can you believe that? They spend a lot of time out of the water eating small prey, and sub-adults prefer swamps and backwaters eating fish, terrapin, birds, and small mammals. I would assume that this is a hatchling. They're born at about 30 centimeters or so when they're born. After... here we go. Tail to nose is 280 millimeters, so as long as a ruler. This guy is, I'd say he's about a year old. He probably would have been born last year. In November, the eggs are laid. 90-day gestation gives November, December, January, February. He might have actually been born this year, February or so. It'd be interesting to see if his burrow is somewhere close by here, and if he shares it with other hatchlings. This is really, really cool. All right, we're going to be sending you over to Byron, who is busy looking for a hummerkop bird.
Well, not just yet, Steph. We are trying, and now the nest is just below us, in front of us, so let's have a look, because sometimes it flies out quickly, if it is in that area. So let's have a look carefully and see. Maybe we get this bird, another one to add to our list. Let's just see. Hold on. I hope we still have good signal. That's fantastic. You still have us, but this is the nest. Have a look over there. Can you see? That is the big hummerkop nest, but no hummerkop. Massive nests, and it's incredible to see them. These big nests. Some of them can weigh a number, I think it's like I can't remember exactly the kilograms. It's like 40 or 50 kilograms. Some of these nests, they're huge, and the hummerkop will use this nest annually. They'll come back and use the same nest, and other birds and other animals will also use the nest. So snakes like to use the nest once the hummerkop has abandoned that nest. Owls, I know owls like to use the nest too. Now, James referred to the bird list as the Ben-Hur of bird lists. So from Ben-Hur, let's go across to Masala himself in the Mara.
Right, we are sitting now with a small group of wildebeest. Well, it's not that small. It's probably well over 500 animals or so, and they are heading south, just like all the others have. Now, I must say sorry for our prolonged absence. We got stuck in an area where there wasn't any signal looking for the herds, and we found a little bit of evidence, but all of them doing exactly what this group's doing now, which is heading down towards the south. And I mean, if we pan across from this group, sort of across to where they're going, you can see an enormous number of them have already passed this way, and they seem to be, well, I think fairly single-minded about where they're going. Why that should be the case, I don't know. Really have no idea why they're going where they are. But there they go. And like I've said, people will tell you it's got to do with the amount of rain there's been somewhere else, the green grass somewhere else, but really, I don't know. There seems to be so much left up here. Isn't that an astounding sight? And they all look slightly morose with their heads bent over. It's just the way they carry their heads. And you have to ask yourself the question, while we were watching that little thing manage to get separated from the rest of the herd, how on earth could it have been separated from a group anything like this size? Now, all along the Mara from here, I'm going to ask Craig just to see if he can't find what I'm talking about here. If we go over the top of my right shoulder, Craig, if you go way over there, what you will see is a few lines of them moving in exactly the same direction, but sort of parallel. Are you able to find some of those? Just, there we go. There's one of them. Very nice. And then I saw from up high another huge group. The other side, where is it now? With thousands of them, just sort of at the base of the escarpment, also moving in the same direction. Huge line. It looks to me, in my inexperienced eye, like this could be it for the migration, but I don't think it is. My intellectual side says to me, no, hang on, let's not jump to conclusions yet. They could easily come back. They may well come back. And I mean, it would be early for them to disappear now, in very early September. It would normally be around October. But who knows? You can see there is a very concerted movement down towards the south. A couple of zebras stuck in the middle there. And if you can hear that flapping noise, I'm sorry about that. It's our rain covers. It was raining a bit, and we've had to keep some of them slightly down. All right, on that subject, I believe that Steph is on the mountain looking at some rain.
Look at the storm we've got where we are. Isn't it just incredible? We can go from James, who's, sitting with some zebra and some wildebeest, enjoying being outdoors. We got myself hunkered down with it pouring with rain outside. And then on some of the mountain camps, we've got sunshine. Can you believe it? On Main North, we've got the sun beating down on top of the Mara River and creating a most lovely picture with this milkshake brown water that's coming out of the Mara River at the moment. To add to Byron's bird list, I've managed to find something that's quite interesting. This is the black-headed heron. Quite often associated with open plains, sort of marshy areas, but not rivers and pans as much as what the grey heron is. The grey heron, I find being a prettier bird, but to be honest with you, we see these black-headed herons so infrequently that they are quite special to get as well. Now, what's quite interesting about these birds is that they hunt in a very similar fashion to secretary birds, and also for the same food. They do hunt snakes, but unlike the secretary bird, who uses a very swift strike with the foot and then tears the snake to pieces with its hooked bill, the black-headed heron will quite often stalk up to the snake and then strike out with that very long neck and pierce the snake with its beak rather than kicking it to death. And what this does is it allows the snake quite often to put up quite a good fight with regards to trying to save itself. And very often you find the snakes wrapped around the head and the beak of these black-headed herons, and it makes for quite a spectacular sighting. So keeping an eye on these birds is obviously a good idea, just in case you see that. And that is precisely the black-headed heron. And Aiden, you're only 6 years old and you're watching the show. So hello, Aiden. You wanted to know, what else does the heron eat? They eat frogs, they eat fish, they eat lizards, they eat snakes, they'll eat insects, basically anything that they can catch and kill. Young crocodiles are a firm favorite. Here's a sacred ibis that's just come into the picture, looking quite manky after, I don't know what it's been doing. And so, Aiden, they'll eat almost anything they can catch and kill, using that very sharp beak to pierce and then flip up into the air and swallow whole. Different to the sacred ibis, which you saw there, which has a curved beak, a massively curved beak, and they use that beak to probe into holes under the ground. That's the white bird. Probe into holes under the ground and to... Oh, sorry, my camera work today is atrocious. Please excuse me, everybody. And they'll use that long beak to probe into the holes to get crabs out of holes and everything else. Yeah, the black-headed heron now is moving off. Why don't we go see what our young crocodile's doing at Main South? The fact that there's no sunlight at Main South, but there is sunlight at Main North, is absolutely bizarre. That's Main North, where the sun is shining, and just see it. Let me show you. And there the sun is disappearing as we go across the rapid. Isn't that just a spectacular sight? There in the distance, at the bend in the river, is where Main South is. And you can see that that is in the shade at the moment. There we go. Yeah, we're looking at Main South and our little crocodile that is busy sunning itself. Isn't that fantastic? Our little crocodile is still busy just sitting here. Why don't we go and look at what Byron's found to add to Taylor's list?
Now we've got two warthog and are feeding on some grass shoots. We're right out on Chitwa airstrip at the moment. It's nice and open here, but watch these warthogs dig and get on their knees trying to get to those juicy shoots and the roots of the grass. That's what they mainly enjoy feeding on, and using those snouts to dig. This was for Taylor's list. She was looking for warthogs. I think they're wonderful. I think they've got such character, warthogs. Now, Steph had a wonderful bird on the river cam, the black-headed heron. Now, I saw a black-headed heron in the Kalahari feeding on a snake. I know Steph was chatting about what they feed on, and it managed to catch a horned adder, which is quite an unusual little adder, very small, small snake, beautiful color. And I was quite surprised. I didn't think I would find a black-headed heron out in the middle of the Kalahari in the desert, or semi-arid desert really. And to see it feeding on a horned adder, I've only ever seen a horned adder once before. They're very well camouflaged and mainly found up in that area. And while this warthog feeds, let me show you this picture quickly that I managed to get of that black-headed heron. Look at that. So that was the black-headed heron in there. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit on that horned adder. Look at that. That's quite a large size, fairly large size snake. But yeah, you can see the head. So this heron, very, very clever. It's got that long beak, so the adder was unable to bite and harm the heron, but then quickly grabbed the neck and the head of the snake and killed it, and then fed on it and swallowed that snake whole. It was amazing. Really a unique sighting. So just touching on what Steph was talking about, the black-headed heron and what it feeds on. Now, Aiden, good morning, Aiden. You asked, why isn't the grass green? Well, we've just come out of our winter, Aiden, so it's our dry season. We've had very little rain, almost no rain at all for the last few months. So everything is very dry, the grass is dry, and we're waiting. Hopefully in about October, November, we'll start getting our first rains of the season. Sorry, Seb spotted something.
Do you have the black-headed Oriole?
No, I don't.
Well, I think one just flew. It was yellow with a black head.
I think I got it. It is indeed, Seb, well spotted. Hold on, we've got another bird we need. I said we need to try get this black-headed Oriole, and I've seen it. I hope it doesn't fly. So Aiden, as I was saying, October, November is when we start getting our rain for our summer months. So our seasons are different to the northern hemisphere. Seb, it's in this green tree. He's sitting top left-hand side of the tree, in amongst those flowers. Let's see, we might get him from here. Let's just try have a look quickly. There he is. He's just moving through the. He's at the back. So go left. There, up there somewhere. And he was a little bit further to the back of the tree. Hold on, it's very difficult now. Just need to see if he's still around there. See, that's what's made this challenge so difficult. Hold on, Sam, I'm just going to move again. Let's just watch that corner of the tree. Let's see if it's still around there. Did it move? Oh no. I think maybe we took our eyes off of it and it moved. I'm just having a look. Also, those flowers are yellow, so it's difficult to spot this bird now. Oh, that is unfortunate. I think it's gone, Seb. Well, we'll try again later. It's alright. That was a black-headed Oriole. So Aiden, as I was saying, once we get those rains, that's when everything will start turning green again, and you'll see the green lush grass and the green vegetation. But in our summer months, so as we get into October, November, and then into summer, December, January, February, those are our summer months. But let's go across now back to James in the Mara. He's got a lioness in the wind.
I do have a lion in the wind. It's the same lion in the wind in exactly the same place as it was yesterday. That's the male lion we had around this rocky area. He's put his head down now, and then he's got a few females and the young male off to the right-hand side of where he is there. And they have not moved 1 inch since last night, I don't believe. And so we found, basically as a summary of what we've achieved today, we found 3 groups of lions, or we've been to 3 groups of lions, none of whom have been anywhere near any migration herds, because the migration herds seem to have absconded for now. So my plan this afternoon is going to be to head across to the eastern side of the river. And what I'll do there is probably see what we can find sort of on the southern and eastern sides of the river, because at the moment the herds seem to have left us here. Now, there's a fairly unpronounceable name here, Gulgrez or Bullbrez or something like that. You say, does the size of a lion's territory, does it depend on the amount of prey there is? There is no greater factor that defines the size of a lion's territory other than the prey that is available. So in desert areas, you will find lion territories will cover exponentially larger spaces than these do here. If you go to the northern parts of Namibia where the desert lions live, you'll find that their territories, probably one pride will have a territory the same size as the entire Mara Triangle, which is about 50,000 hectares or so, 500 square kilometers. So really enormous territories, whereas out here there'll be about, well, probably just slightly less than a tenth of that size. So absolutely, it makes a huge difference as to how much, well, the size of the territory is defined largely by the amount of prey that there is in an area. And it is a blustery day. There's quite a lot of wind in the offing. There's quite a lot of rain, and of course, that means that they have supposedly favourable hunting conditions, but if you want to hunt, you would actually have something to hunt, don't you? And we had a lovely question yesterday, which I mentioned again last night, of whether or not these lions will take hunting more seriously now that when the migration herds disappear. And at the moment they won't, because they are so full. But in a few days' time, if those herds don't come back, well then yes, hunting is going to become a lot more serious. And the topi, the resident zebra, possibly the old Thompson's gazelle if it's very unlucky, and the impala are going to take a little bit of a smack. All right, Byron continues his saga. He's having a bit of a rerun here. This particular episode of the bird saga, he's had this bird before.
We've got a beautiful African harrier hawk, some light coming through the trees onto him, or her, not sure actually. Always nice to see them. One of my favorite birds of prey. Just the way they fly from tree to tree, and they often get mobbed, but it doesn't really bother them. Nice to see the African harrier hawk. Now we have got it on our list. James is apparently taking notes. Which James? Meg? Which James? James in the Mara or James a viewer? I gave you two options there, Meg. Which one was it? Sorry, James in the Mara apparently is taking notes. Yes, James, you are right. We have seen this before, but it's still wonderful to see, James, and we appreciate the birds. I think we need to get James a sandwich or something. Is there a delivery service in the Mara, perhaps? Bacon and egg sandwich. I wonder if Amanda delivers in the Mara. I think we've got a business proposal for her. All right, let's continue. And we'll see if we can get a glimpse of a black-headed oriole. I can't believe we don't have one on camera yet. I really enjoy these African harrier hawks. They used to be known as the gymnogene. I love that name. I wish they... Hold on, sorry everyone. They just... there are two of them. I think this is a nesting pair. Sorry, we'll go to Taylor shortly. But there's one in the tree. Can you see? There it is. But the other one just flew off into the other tree. They both landed on the branch. But anyway, I think this is a nesting pair, which is interesting. And anyway, nice to see them, a pair of them. All right, well, let's go across to Taylor now and see how her search for her challenge was going this morning. And we'll let her know that we saw the warthog for her.
That's very kind of you, Byron, to share your warthogs with me. We actually have seen a couple out and about, but just very far away, and I promise you wouldn't have believed me if I showed them to you. But we've got some hippos and a yellow-billed stork also just fishing amongst the hippos. Now, there are so many of them. There's even a whole bunch of little ones just on the edge of the bank. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once I caught a fish alive. That's not what the hippos do, of course, but that's what the yellow-billed stork will be doing. That is so precious. Now, I always talk about how I was so excited to see the hippos coming out of the water and spending their days on the banks at Chitwa on those cold, overcast days, and I hadn't had an opportunity to see that at all. But luckily, here in the Mara, it is a very common sight to see them out next to the water's edge. Now, they're all moving out. Like I said, it's overcast, it's a little bit chilly, so I'm sure that they'll be enjoying the sun on their back. Look at that. That was an amazing technique that yellow-billed stork is using. So it's got its beak agape and then trying to flush out any fish or even any frogs or if there's any little crabs or anything that are living in this river underneath all that vegetation. Oh, that is so clever. It did strike there. Wasn't successful though. That is amazing. I haven't actually seen this technique being used. Normally I just see the yellow-billed stork sort of moving through the water, wading about. But I suppose the birds have different hunting techniques wherever you go. That is incredible. I suppose that's quite clever. Sort of chasing him out straight towards its beak and then just being able to clamp shut on a fish. That is amazing. Now, these are lovely birds. Unfortunately, we don't get to see them all the time at Djuma. Just every now and then they'll pop past. And I think I've even seen an African spoonbill, David, just on the other side. Sorry, I just want to have a look. Some birds that I haven't seen for a very long time, so I thought we'd take this opportunity to have a look. No, it's not a spoonbill. It is a yellow-billed stork again. It fooled me when it was in the grass. Also going to fish, going down to the water's edge. Now, there's a couple of wildebeest. There's one wildebeest just to the right of that bird that unfortunately has not made it. You can see it's been washed down the river. Whether it drowned or whether it was captured by something like a crocodile, it's difficult, or maybe it just died in the stampede. Very, very sad, of course. Rebecca, unfortunately, I heard only every third word that you said there. Sorry, there was a bit of comms breakup. Okay, I can't hear 100%, but it sounds like there are some children watching us today, so hello to all of you. Now, I know it's very sad to see these wildebeest that have died, but it is natural and it happens all the time out here, especially when they're doing these big migrations. But don't think of it as a bad thing, because these wildebeest will feed lots and lots of different animals out here. Not the hippos though necessarily, although we've been seeing them munching on carcass here and there, but it's not too common. We actually don't see it very often in South Africa at all. And those hippos are so precious, the way that they're playing around. Now, which starlings do we have here? You're not Meaves, are you? I don't know what starlings those ones are. They look different. Very long tails, like the Birchells and the Meaves starling have, but very dark on the underside and a very sort of dark ear as well. We'll have to get the bird book out for that one. I didn't bring my big one. Is there another one? Do you have another one? David's got another one. What kind of bird is that? That looks like a bulbul. A dark-capped bulbul. It looks like it's got a yellow rump. It looks very much like the same bulbul species that we get in South Africa. Yes, I think it is. I'm going to go with a dark-capped bulbul there. Now, my birding, of course, is not up to scratch here in Kenya, because there's a couple of different species. I'll be able to tell you what type of species it is, but the particular bird, I'm not sure. Let's have a look. I'm actually on starlings, so let me have a quick look. Oh, a Rupel starling. That's what we just looked at, the one with the long tail over here. My little pocket guide. I have got a very big African bird book, but it's so massive, and when it rains, I don't want it to get wrecked. That's a new bird for me. Wonderful. So I honestly need to start working on my bird lists now. I can't hear what Rebecca's saying. I think we're linking across now to Steph, and he's got a
Seems like today the weather is plaguing us all, which is a good thing, I suppose. We need rain. The reason why I framed up this shot was not just to show you that black-headed heron busy fishing the shallows there, but also the deep contrast between the vibrant riverbanks, the green and the vibrant riverbanks, versus the grassy plains, basically, and then the dryness of a full-on winter in the Sabi Sands with Byron. Although it's spring, I must be honest with you, we've seen a couple of the knobthorns flowering there, and I suppose that in the riverbed at places there are absolutely some areas that are starting to green up quite nicely. But for now, it's just a very nice thing to show. Our baby crocodile is still on the rock at Main South. And I've managed to zoom in as tight as what I can on this little guy. That's about as full zoom as I can get. Just have a look at how fantastic this little guy is. Jose, you've asked the question that I've been wanting to prove the whole day to all of us. Are there any differences between crocodiles and alligators? They absolutely are. Not only are they geographically split with alligators occurring everywhere where crocodiles don't, but also there's a distinct tooth that erupts. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more. You can't see it on this little guy, but there you can see a tooth out of its mouth. That tooth is the only distinguishing characteristic between a true alligator and a true crocodile. The fact that the alligator's teeth are all inside its mouth, the crocodile, some of its teeth, in particular that fourth tooth, is outside of its mouth. So apart from the geographical differences, that is the main difference. For the rest, an alligator's snout is quite broad and snubby, whereas a crocodile's snout, relatively speaking, is quite sharp and pointed. Relatively speaking. I mean, there's some monsters here that have a short, sharp, snubby snout as well, but their teeth would all, or some of their teeth, especially the ones that make the difference, all outside of their mouth. This little guy's got his ear slit open. Just behind his eye is an opening. That is an ear slit. And what I didn't realize is that the scales on its body are obviously, in this particular picture, you can see that behind the head, the scales are killed, but the scales on its skull are actually fused to its skull. In other words, there is no meat between the scale and the bone. So what you're having a look at there is basically a skin-covered piece of bone, and that's about it. Isn't that just incredible? And inside that head, I feel that there are a lot of electrochemical receptors. But I do have an answer on teeth replacement from an earlier viewer. Forgive me for not remembering the name right now. I have a terribly bad habit of that. But we were asking, do crocodiles replace their teeth continuously, or do they have just one set of teeth? And I'm happy to say that crocodiles replace their teeth continuously. A single tooth is replaced from the bottom, and they're called functional teeth and growing teeth. The tooth that you're seeing sticking out of this baby crocodile's mouth is a functional tooth. It will not be attached to a, well, it will be attached to a root, but the root itself will be how do I say, abducted from the new tooth that's growing underneath that one. And the new tooth will basically push the old tooth out of its mouth. Each tooth will be replaced about 45 times in a crocodile's lifespan. So an average crocodile, an average large crocodile of about 13 feet, so which is big. These are the size of the crocodiles that get here. Will have each of its large teeth replaced about 45 times in its lifetime. Isn't that just amazing? The rest of the scales on this crocodile's body are loose and keeled. Some snakes have keeled scales as well. I would imagine that in crocodiles, this keeled scale helps it to be a little bit more hydrodynamic and enable it to swim a lot easier, or at least be able to work with currents a lot easier. Actually, very beautiful animals, these, you know. All right, we're going to be sending you over to Byron, who is in his winter landscape, heading off to Twin Dams, and we'll catch up with you a bit later.
ouais,
Oh, well, we just approached Twin Dams and we're having a look just to see if we get any signs of some birds before we finish off this morning's drive. It's been a lot of fun. We've got a lot of great birds. That black-headed oriole, we heard another one and it disappeared again. We couldn't get it on camera. They're quite difficult to get on camera. Secretive birds. I wonder if the giant eagle owl is around at all. I haven't seen that giant eagle owl around here for quite some time. A few days now, almost a week. Since Tristan last saw it here, I think. And these beautiful big jackalberry trees. Toby, you asked what am I going to do when I hit 100 birds? Well, thank you for the vote of confidence there, Toby. You say when and not if. If I hit 100 birds, I think I'll do a little victory dance, Toby. I mean, I have to. A little victory dance. A victory dance, and then maybe another challenge, a short challenge afterwards, depending how much time I have left. I leave on Wednesday morning after a morning drive. I'll be back again in October. Oh, there's some elephant. There we go. There's just some elephant. Quickly get a glimpse of them, and it sounds like Taylor, I think she's completed her search for the animals she was looking for. She's managed to find the warthog. So from our beautiful grey elephants, let's go to Taylor and her grey warthogs. We'll see you later.
Finally, we have completed the Ugly Five. I think it might have been the first time that it's been done since the team has been in the Mara. Now, it's quite far away. It doesn't seem to be too bothered by us at all. On its knees, munching away on some delicious grass. But it better be careful because there were lions in the area. And this is a favorite spot, of course, of I think the Paradise Pride likes it around here. And if it's not careful, it could get munched on. But it has been a fantastic drive this morning. I really have had a lot of fun. We have seen all sorts of exciting things, some new birds for me, which is good, and I promise I'll get working on my list. And of course the Jackal den was lots of fun too. Now Maurice is looking a little bit tired today. Oh, but we have a question. I'll tell you a bit more about Maurice in a minute. Now James, you're wondering if I've seen a secretary bird yet. Most of you know that's my all-time favorite bird. I have indeed. I've seen plenty of them, so I'm just waiting for the most spectacular sighting to, of course, show you all. What I did see this morning very quickly was a black-headed heron killing a mouse of some sort, or maybe even a rat. I'm not sure quite what it was. We just saw as it had caught it, and it flew off, and then we weren't able to put it on screen, unfortunately, and it gobbled it down. So that was quite nice. I've told you many stories of my days in the Eastern Cape of South Africa of watching black-headed herons catching snakes and catching four-striped mice. Maybe that's what it was. But again, I just am in absolute awe being out here in the Mara. It honestly is a dream come true. Now, you can see Maurice is looking a little bit on the tired side, and as we were driving around going over some of these corrugations, Maurice is falling asleep. And most of you know that elephants don't need much sleep, but Maurice has been out for most of the evening, and I think that he needs some shut-eye, as do myself and David, and as well as Nasiti, our wonderful Askari, who has accompanied us throughout the evening. But I hope that you've enjoyed everything just as much as we have, and of course a big thank you to Byron in the Sabi Sand holding down the fort. We miss you lots. Well, I miss you guys lots, and thanks to James, of course, and all the wonderful ladies in Final Control. We'll see you again this afternoon for the Sunset Safari.